When this section is going to be.
Right.
Okay.
We're going to go ahead and, well, he's coming back. We're going to call this regularly scheduled December 12th Commission meeting to order. Begin with an approval of the agenda as it was published with no additions, amendments, or changes. I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Comments, questions on the motion before from the dais? Hearing none. Are the comments, questions from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. If you would, please rise for the same for the invocation by Pastor Doug Russell of Union Baptist Church. If you would, please remain standing after the invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor, welcome to Newberry.
Blessed to be here tonight. Let's pray. Father, we do thank you for the opportunity to gather together. Anytime we do that, when we do it under your house, under your name, under your calling, we represent you. Then we should hold that in our hearts and our minds. These people are gathered here to represent this community and all the people that are in it to forge further into the future, this new season that's coming, this new year that's upon us. But we are called always to just love you and thank you for your many blessings. So I pray that over everything that's said and done tonight. Would we have the hearts to love and care for each one and all the things that need to be said and done to glorify you in this community and lift it up to be one of the best around, and we are thankful for that, and we call that to your glory, and we give you the glory for it all. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. We appreciate those words. We have no presentations tonight. That's going to move us to public announcements. Anybody from the community that wishes to address the commission on anything that's not on the agenda, now's a great time to do so. These are 2-minute announcements. If you got something more controversial, we have another public announcement section at the end of the night where you have 5 minutes. So if you got anything you want to let us know, now would be a great time. Seeing none, we'll move to the consent agenda. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Yes. I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Clark. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and that takes us to our item 4 tonight, which is our first quasi-judicial hearing. And since we are entering a quasi-judicial hearing, I'm going to go ahead and read through this procedure. This means that the commission will stop being a legislative body and become a judicial board, which means that we have to follow certain rules and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. The primary rule we have to follow concerns testimony, and the substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the judicial board makes a decision. This standard states the following, and I quote, all public testimony taken under oath, everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. The giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments are limited to the expert evidence of record. I'm going to ask the city attorney to read into the record the ordinance by title, if you would, sir.
Mr. Mayor, this is ordinance number 2022-34, LDR 22-13, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida, relating to the rezoning of approximately 48.2 contiguous acres, more or less, pursuant to an application by the property owner of said acreage, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from residential mixed, single-family mobile home RSF/MH2 zoning district to the planned residential development PRD zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida. Tax parcel numbers are 01993-000-000 and 02002-000-000, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2022-34 upon its reading by title only.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
I'm going to ask the clerk if you would swear in the applicants, staff, any participants requesting to speak. We can do that collectively at this time. If you're going to speak to this or any other quasi-judicial night, please go ahead and stand up. Be sworn in.
John Paul Perez.
Brian Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we begin, I'm going to go ahead and ask the commission to disclose any ex parte communications they have. At this time, ex parte communications are any conversations or transmissions of information that may have bearing or influence on any voting member's decision. Commissioner Mazon?
None.
Commissioner Martin? Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Clark?
None.
Commissioner Coleman? I have none either. Again, I'm a non-voting mayor. And I'm going to explain the order of presentations we're going to follow for the quasi-judicial item before us tonight. We're going to hear from our staff with an overview. Then we'll hear the applicant's presentation with no time limit. Then we'll hear the staff reports and recommendation at that point with no time limit. Nobody has contacted me wishing to claim a third-party intervener status, so that's going to take us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item will be given 3 minutes to do so. Then we'll hear from the applicant with cross-examinations, the staff with cross-examinations. Members of the decision-making body through the chair can ask any questions of the staff or the applicants. Final arguments will be heard. Then the city attorney will advise the decision-making bodies applicable law and factual findings must be met to approve or deny the consideration. Then deliberations will happen. After deliberations, vote will be taken to approve conditions, continue, or deny. And we will begin with the staff overview. John Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Commission. My name is John Paul Perez with the Planning and Economic Development Department. The request before you tonight is a petition to rezone 48.2 acres from residential mixed single-family / mobile home, RSF / MH2, to planned residential development. Here's an aerial image showing the general location of the property within the city limits. Here's an aerial image showing the current conditions of the site. This is the underlying plat that shows the previous mobile home subdivision that was there, that they'll be replatting. So again, the current zoning is residential mixed single family, which allows for single family as well as mobile homes. The proposed zoning is planned residential. The current land use is residential low density. There is no change to the land use or the permittable density. This is the proposed plan showing Area 1 and Area 2. Area 1 will have about 30 to 40 units. These will be the larger lots within the development at about 6,600 square feet per lot. And the lot width will be 60 feet. Area 2 are the more dense lots, 5,500 square feet, 50-foot lot width, and this represents about 130 to 140 of the units that are being proposed. Within Area 2, also, they're requesting for permission to put 16 tiny homes. Area 2 has the potential for 16 tiny homes. This was the original plan that was presented to the Planning and Zoning Board. There was some direction given by the Planning and Zoning Board to staff, as well as the applicant. We've revised the plan. This is the new plan. And I'm going to just flip between them so you can see the very minor differences that were that took place. Yeah. All right, so this is the original one. I probably should have identified, but the street connection at the northwest has moved ever so slightly, okay? So this is data taken from the table on the plan, just showing the allocation of land uses. They're satisfying all the requirements of the City of Newberry code for planned residential developments. As well, this slide shows the sum of the setbacks, or all of the setbacks that they're proposing for the lots. There was a Scrivener's error. The side yard setback in the development agreement says 15 feet. It should actually read 7.5 feet. That's something that we'll correct before we bring it back to the board for a second reading. And this is the allocation. Again, Area 1 is getting 30 to 40 units, and Area 2, 130 to 140 units proposed. A little note at the bottom there, 16 tiny homes potentially in Area 2, and not immediately abutting project boundaries. These are the future roadway connections that we have here. So there's plenty of connections to future development, existing development, as well as potential development in the future on the east. There is a pedestrian path proposed on the plan that connects to an unimproved right-of-way. you have a question? Okay. And one of the main directives from the Planning and Zoning Board, or one of the major concerns, was improvements to Northwest 266th Street. At this time, we've had an opportunity to work with Clay Swieger from EDA Consultants, as well as Pat Post, on potential improvements to the right-of-way, which will be a reconstruction of the road from Northwest 8th Lane, which is that northern limit of the property, all the way down to 3rd Avenue or Rock Road. This will be a complete replacement of the chip seal road that's there today, and it'll be a asphalt road. It'll have sidewalks on the east side of 266, and it will include a drainage basin that'll allow the right-of-way to drain into that basin. So just briefly, the improvements, the estimation of the cost is $593,000. That includes contingencies as well. Actual construction cost is closer to $419,000. City administration has identified potential funding sources. We've negotiated up to a $200,000 not to exceed contribution for this improvement. And yeah, we already covered sidewalks on the east side, and interior will have sidewalks on both sides of the street. And again, just some of the comments that were discussed in detail at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting: proportionate fair share for improvements, sidewalk throughout neighborhoods, sidewalk on 266th Street, and addressing the capacity of 266 to handle all these additional units on that road. With that, staff finds the request consistent with the City of Newberry Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Regulations, and I will withhold my recommendation to the appropriate time. That completes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Clay Swieger with EDA Consultants. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. This may be the next to last government meeting for me, at least, until next year. So I appreciate the chance to be here and that you all are still meeting and taking care of business. I just wanted to give a brief presentation, add on to what planning staff had indicated. This is a project rezoning to a PRD, Planned Residential Development. It's really close to where we are tonight. Some of these projects that are coming online, they're a little further out. This is actually unique in that it's pretty close into the core of town, and it's walkable from here. So it's owned by Mr. Pat Post. The property is just under 50 acres. It's 48.2 acres. It is on the east side of 266th Street between the 300 and 500 block. It's currently mostly an open field used for agriculture. It has been, it's had a residential land use designation for quite some time in the city's comp plan. The zoning district is RSF/MH2, so that allows single-family homes and mobile homes. It's also unique in that this property has a very old subdivision plat on it with well over 200 lots, very small lots. So arguably today that plat could be utilized for a very large mobile home development. This is something a little different. This is a PD for a lower density, single-family, site-built home type of project. This is also unique in that our project is in the CRA district, the Economic Development Overlay area, the Transportation Enhancement Improvement area, and the Urban Service area. So it's really in the core of the areas that I believe the city has identified for growth and development. So again, the proposed rezoning is from RSF MH2 to PRD, Planned Development. There are 2 parcels associated with this 48 acres. Your planning staff and the report that I put together shows how the application and the request is consistent with your comprehensive plan, including the land use map that's been in place for quite some time that has low-density residential, 4 units per acre on the property. This is the future land use map for the city. And you can see in yellow, with the red outline is the property that we're looking at tonight. You can see the old plat that's overlaid on top of the property itself. And so all the yellow is residential low density, 4 units per acre. And this is your existing zoning map with all the light brown areas are RSF MH2. And so our request would be to go to PRD in the lime green. And as John Paul gave you a summarization, this is the PD plan. It shows almost 35% of the site is buffers and green spaces. The yellow areas are where the residential lots would be located. These would all be detached units, single family, platted and sold. We did put a provision in for the option of potentially doing some tiny homes. That was something that the city had approved a while back as far as allowing those in certain areas, and we put that in as an option for up to 16 of those types of units, and but they would have to be in the interior of the project, not on the exterior, just in case there was any concern about compatibility. Not sure if the developer wants to ultimately do that or not. It's not a requirement, but it's an option, at least the way we proposed it. A relatively small percentage of the units that would be in the interior of the site. The maximum density is 3.7 units per acre, and the range is between 160 and 180. The land use map in the comp plan allows almost 200 units, so this is lower than the maximum densities. There are a number of conditions that are in the report and in the PD agreement. These are all things that we've worked closely with the city staff just to make sure all the bases are covered and that the project will be of very high quality. There are things in here regarding stormwater, requirements for sidewalks on both sides of all the streets internally, and homeowners association, requirements for minimum open space, phasing, and the types of units, being single-family detached site-built or some allowance for some tiny homes. There's also a requirement for improvements to 266th Street on the west side of this project, as John Paul had indicated. So we worked closely with your staff to come up with what the type of improvements need to be done there, and those would come online as part of the development. So there are many policies in the comp plan, particularly for areas that are in close to the core, that would support this type of residential development, discouraging urban sprawl further out, trying to have things done in the economic development overlay areas, and where public facilities are available, which we do have here. There aren't any regulated natural resources that would be unsuitable for potential site development. Most of it is a cleared ag field. There are some nice trees around the perimeter, and particularly in the northeast area, which is actually a natural area we want to retain, sort of a depressional area. So there's a large green space in the northeast corner, which will remain in its natural condition. And so in summary, the application has been put together to meet all of your requirements and to be consistent with your comprehensive plan and to be compatible with the residential that's in the area. With all the requirements in the PD, that should hopefully be demonstrated. Your Planning and Zoning Board has recommended approval of this. They did raise some questions and concerns, which we've tried to tie down between now and then, as John Paul mentioned, so hopefully all of that has been adequately addressed for you all. I think your planning staff will eventually come up and recommend approval. I guess that's next, but with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have for me tonight. I appreciate the chance to present this to you all.
Thank you, sir. All right, now we'll hear the staff report and recommendation.
Staff recommends.
Come up to the mic.
Sorry. Staff does recommend approval of ordinance 2022-34.
All right. We haven't had been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status, so we'll hear from the public. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. Go ahead and form a queue. We'll find a nice orderly line. Okay, then we'll go to cross-examination. Clay, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? That was a pretty damning presentation there, so anything? No? All right, staff, did you hear anything from Clay you want to cross-examine? Member decision-making body, you got any questions of applicant or staff? Commissioner Farnsworth.
Not so sure it's a question as a statement. As far as the requiring a recommendation from the Alachua County School Board, I don't think that should be required. And I'm not 100% convinced about the mixed use of the tiny homes within the subdivision itself, but I guess that can be discussed whenever the project is platted, right?
Mr. Clark.
Yeah, I just was wanting a couple questions, so I'm gonna, little caveat to it. What are the tiny homes above and beyond the amount of homes that is already, you've got a density of 130 and they're gonna be in the area too? So are they gonna be a part of that 130?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you have 130 or 140, that changes, that's 10 units. If you got land, you can't have 130 and 40 if they're all 6,600 or 5,600, right? So they got to be one or the other. I'm kind of confused. So 30 or 40, but you're asking for six, is there enough space to continue? I reckon, would it be enough space in Area 1 to have 30 or 40 units and still maintain the square footage that you need? And the same on Area 2?
Mr. Mayor, so in the PD, we created a range of units, right? We have to have at least 160 total in both areas cumulatively, and then 180. So it has to be somewhere in there. And if any tiny homes were constructed, they would count towards those units. 1 unit tiny home equals 1 unit of a single family. And if you see that, there's one area that's just right below where it says Area 2. It's sort of a perfect square block. That is the area that we thought maybe there might be some interest in doing a few tiny home units in there. We're not sure, and it's really up to the commission if that's something you're uncomfortable with. It's sort of, we thought it would be a nice option to have, but.
Right now, we're just changing to the PRD. We're not platting or doing none of that right now. So I just want to get some of this kind of cleared up so when we do look at it. And your HOA is evidently, which I like an HOA with some of these subdivisions, is it going to be like a all-out front type or do we don't know that? We ain't been that deep yet.
So when we bring the subdivision back to you and your attorney and staff look at it, they'll want to see the homeowners association documents.
That's what
They're going to want to make sure that they're maintaining common areas, that they're maintaining the stormwater basins and those areas.
What about homes themselves?
Well,
The HOA is,
they're going to have some architectural controls, so the house has to have certain kind of shingles or
Yeah.
materials, and so to
just
make sure it's
HOAs
high
in general, I
quality.
think is maintaining the front, and that way it's always nice and
All the
that's
common
what I was
areas.
wondering how deep this will go. Okay.
Yeah, all the common areas that someone needs to be in charge of maintaining, the HOA has to take care of. So there's no man's land, so to speak, that gets overgrown or unmaintained. I also mentioned too, I think, back to the tiny homes, I think that your single-family zoning would typically allow that and to a limited degree, so with the PD just sort of kind of goes along the same line of thinking.
I think as long as it's done in a class act myself, I mean, I'm okay with that. I just want to know, but like the lot size is 6,600. JP, I thought we were at the 10,000 or something. Look, is there a minimum on our lot size or PRDs are different? Do we have a
PRDs.
10,000 square foot?
The current zoning is a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. The PRD is like you get to create your own lot sizes with unique land configurations.
That's where it changes in the
Yeah, they get to
PRD.
move it around. One thing that they're not doing though is exceeding the density that they could do today. So that remains the same. There's no increase in density here. It's just they're coming in to actually build it out now. And just wanted to point out that the PRD zoning does permit up to 30% of the lots to be tiny homes, just as part of the code.
And I should say that when this was in front of the P and Z, the P and Z had a certain level of discomfort with the tiny homes as well. I don't share that level of discomfort. I tend to agree with you that if it's done well, right? And I think that our code that governs tiny homes, that we spend an awful lot of time and money developing on, compels the tiny home to be done well, right? Because we didn't want people to buy a shed, stick a toilet in it and say that's a house, right? So it's going to be I would personally love to see some developer in town, I'm glad to see this is in there, pull the trigger on that, because I think we need a diversity of housing. I think the tiny homes, they cater to a different market, they're a little bit less expensive, and I think that we have workforce housing, I think we have young families that just too. So I hope that it does end up, before we leave this slide, I just want to point out, and I'm not sure this is for you, for you, Clay, or for staff, but we've recently had a lot of issues where we create developments that have interconnectivity for the future, and then when it comes time to connect it, the neighborhood is built out, and they say, no, you're not driving through my neighborhood, right? So I don't know if we need to start, asking people to put up signage like this intended future driveway into another development, so that there's no confusion that, we always intend for people to drive through this. So those are a lot of points of connection, and I doubt that we would ever utilize all of those points of connection.
Yeah.
But any one of them potentially could be, and I hate to keep creating this, I don't know, we're not creating it, it's just people not doing all of their due diligence on their homework, but this idea that, I live in the back end and I'm by myself and no one's ever gonna drive through, and then we put in another development and now you got 500 more homes that are coming through there. So maybe there's some signage or something that we could put up, something that we could put, I know it's in the deed documents, I know all that kind of stuff, but, when they put down that stack of paper, and you're supposed to read through all that yourself.
Mr. Mayor, if I may respond to that.
And then Commissioner Coleman.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, after you, sir.
Oh, tiny homes. Is it gonna be one of those where the deed restriction is that they have to be pulled in by semi, it can't be stick-built? Is it gonna be anything like that?
I don't believe we have anything
Or are
like
they
that.
gonna do stick-built tiny homes?
Well, I don't know if they're going to be doing stick-built tiny homes, but all the applications that we have are site-built homes.
We don't allow them on wheels.
Yeah.
So it has to be, it could be manufactured and then brought in
And put on
down.
slab?
Like a modular
Right, but
home, yeah.
it can't be on, I don't think it can be on wheels.
Hang on.
It can be
Throwing
on
that
3 wheels,
curveball.
but
Here
not
we go.
4.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, the way the code is written for PRDs and in standard residential neighborhood zoning, it does have to be site-built. It could be modular, it could not be brought in on a trailer and then the wheels removed. That's considered a recreational
That's what I
vehicle.
meant, yeah.
So,
It could be
yeah.
manufactured and then put together.
Yes, sir.
But it can't
And-
just be.
And further, they would not be scattered throughout the neighborhood. They would have to be concentrated in their own sort of enclave area that was a designed tiny home neighborhood. They would not be scattered throughout the neighborhood.
Commissioner Clark?
Oh, go ahead. No, Commissioner Coleman first.
Oh, I thought he was turning off the mic, yeah.
I was just gonna ask, it looks like, because this was a planned development in an old parcel here, what was the lot sizes prior to you coming up with the PRD? Because I see a lot of tick marks, but I can't read any of this. Well, I'm a proponent for larger lots, so I don't I mean, personally, I'm not into your 40-foot lots. 50-foot, we're pushing it, but the 60-foot I do like, or bigger. So I can't see the map, what this was, and I know it was already pre-planned, so I'm just asking the question, and
The old map?
the old map, the old plat is a lot of lots.
The old plat was for horse and buggy, right? You were
Small lots and small roads. Yeah, I
It
don't
was
have the
set
exact
for mobile
dimensions.
homes, just like
Yeah.
Kevin and Jason.
So they were
James.
40-foot probably?
Yeah.
Did you
40.
approve this back then in the 1800s? All right. Okay, I'm just
I
checking.
think they were 40 by
Sir?
80s or 40 by 60s.
Original plan?
While you're looking for that. we'll
Okay,
let
go ahead.
Commissioner Maison, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I have a couple questions. So in the green space, with this being a single-family homes, will there be any play areas, playgrounds, parks?
Yes.
But they're not changing it.
The area that is, the large green area that's in the middle to the left is going to be essentially a stormwater retention area. It'll be dry with landscaping.
We don't encourage children to play in that.
Yeah.
Just-
Right.
Just on the record,
We
right?
did, I remember we discussed that
Yeah.
at P and Z. That basin is sized to collect the runoff for most of this project, and then also the city right-of-way, 266, so we're sort of working together on that. The northeast corner is a large natural area. Just around the edges, there'll be some stormwater, very shallow, but that's gonna be usable. We're gonna probably put a trail in there, some sort of amenities in that area. And then in the bottom, we are gonna have a pedestrian path and trail that goes to that right-of-way to the south, but there'll also be stormwater in that area. So we're gonna have some pedestrian, or, I'm sorry, residential amenities for the folks that live there in the northeast corner.
So there will be.
Yes.
Okay. Second
That
question.
was a long way to say yes. I shouldn't have said yes.
I'll take it. So the pedestrian walkway, I noticed that it's a street. So how is that going to tie in with a path versus a street?
The pedestrian walkway to the south?
Yes, because 264th is a street, right? And I know that once it crosses over Third Place, it's dirt, but it's still a street.
Right. So what our proposal was, if I, maybe I can find an aerial, that doesn't quite go, yeah, that goes far enough. So the pedestrian path would come south to our property line, and there's a paper street, city right-of-way that's unimproved, to your point. And then there's also right-of-way that goes further south down to Rock Road. And so the idea is to have a path that goes all the way down to that road. That's frankly probably how people are gonna walk to, like, if you're coming to a meeting here at City Hall, you're gonna walk down that path and then start heading east. So that's the idea, is to connect to something, paved street. Or your golf cart.
Don't say that too loud.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
So-
my last thing, I already,
So my last question is, it being a PRD, how, like, can you give me an estimate of the price range between the tiny homes to the larger houses?
I do not have that information. I don't know if, someone back there prepared to, I mean, these would be custom site-built homes, so, I mean, I just don't know what the going rate is for those exactly off the top of my head. I mean, the tiny homes are gonna be site-built, stick-built, as we talked about. They could be platted and sold, or they could be rented. Similar example to the ones we're looking to do potentially is, I don't know if you know where the Park Avenue project is in Gainesville, right by Santa Fe College. There's some apartments, but then there's some cottages and tiny homes that are built there. That's the kind of thing, they're really kind of like townhouses, detached townhouses.
So they're more affordable.
Yeah, that's the idea with the cottage, right? I mean, the smaller unit, more affordable price. Yes, sir. I wanted to mention too, real quick, before
hang
I
on.
forget. Oh, yeah.
And 1 second, he's trying to get his, he
absolutely,
found his
yes.
information. You wanna let him go for it? All right, go ahead, Clay, before you forget.
I just thought it was important to mention, as far as the stub outs, what the county is doing on projects, and I think it was wise of them of several years ago, they really push interconnectivity. And what they do is that, because they're getting time where, you know, you build a neighborhood, you do stub outs, the people move in, and they're really upset when there's the next phase that comes in. They have a requirement that you just put a sign at the end of it that says future street connection.
Now,
And so really, there's no way anyone in the neighborhood wouldn't know that that's a possibility in the future, and it's avoided a lot of heartache later on. And if you know, at least you're aware of it when you go
Right.
look at the house and the lot, and
That's kind of my idea there. All right, Commissioner Clark.
maybe this is either a Brian or Mike or John Paul. Is there an off-ramp on this to approve the PRD approves the lot sizes tonight? Just like they are, because there again, this is an old map, I got it. Is there a negotiation way to get maybe a little more square footage on these lots? Because I don't like a 50-foot lot personally. I think this is gonna turn into, it's better than a mobile home park, don't get me wrong. But these little lots with no, I think in the future, it's gonna be it just turns into something that, I'll never approve another 40-foot lot while I sit here, like they've done in these old subdivisions, I'm just saying. So before we get out of the ground.
Answer, you answer and I'm gonna.
Okay, I'm just asking, but is there an off-ramp
So,
or a negotiation table?
tonight, we're considering the preliminary development plan, which includes the rezoning. They still need to come back for a final development plan. That final development plan is going to solidify all the details. We'll have elevations, any sort of studies we need, et cetera. That needs to be submitted within the next 12 months. It could be extended one time for 12 months. So that'll be coming in the very near future. Typically, that'll include a site plan as well as a preliminary plat. So there we'll be able to see the final lot configuration. However, after Mike provides his comment, I would like Clay to come up. A lot of engineering goes into these plans, and he may be able to let you know if there's any flexibility built into the plan that they've laid out to increase lot sizes elsewhere.
Go ahead,
And Mr. Mayor, I was just gonna add that, when the developer originally proposed this project, we had a discussion with him about potentially utilizing the existing plat, which would have kept the lot sizes. Staff will recommend against trying to keep the existing plat in play, primarily because the road widths and the alleys are not conducive to our current standards. We would probably have troubles getting infrastructure squeezed in some places. And some of the lots, some of the way those roads are designed, he would have trouble getting houses back to back. So when you build a road and only get one house fronting it, it's not cost effective for the development either. So I think it would be problematic, not necessarily to model the lot size, but to try to utilize that plat and meet our current standards for roads and sidewalks and streetlights and utility infrastructure. I think it'd be very difficult to move for staff to try to comply with.
Clay, you want to speak to John Paul's question? Is there any flexibility?
So a couple comments on this, if I may. So the PD does, these are minimum sizes. They could be larger, but you have to set a baseline somewhere, just like in standard zoning code. So they are minimums.
your plan has not been evolved to an exact yet, is what you're saying?
Well, most of the lots that are in area 2
Okay,
are right around 50 foot.
from the previous
Yes,
development plan.
correct. Well, the ones that we're
The original.
concepting in the background, trying to figure out how to make the project work. Staff did ask for us to have a variety of lot sizes, so we have said tiny home component as an option. We have a requirement for larger lots in area 1. Area 2 does have a minimum of 5,000 square feet. I mean, we have done quite a bit of engineering, and we do have, some substantial off-site road improvements, along with the soon-to-come impact fees. I think there's a lot of concern from the developer to have a requirement to make the lots larger. That would probably immediately mean a 20% loss of the amount of lots, and it changes the pro forma. I mean, we have been working on this for a long time, just giving you our perspective very respectfully. So I guess that's my response to you.
And just so, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with Commissioner Clark, but I think that what every development needs is variety, right? I'm not necessarily opposed to smaller lots. I think that, I see Tioga, those are really small lots, done really, really well. So I like variety. I like the tiny houses. I like the bigger lots in Area 1, right? So I think, and what I really like is development on this side of town. So get development on this side of town, we capture those folks as they go through. You get development on that side of town, they turn that way and go. So I think this is a good compromise of a plat that already existed to what we have right now in front of us. Are any more questions of the applicant or staff? Okay, Clay, do you want to make a final argument?
No, I appreciate the chance to present, and if you got any questions in your final deliberation, please let me know.
John Paul, do you want to make a final argument? All right. Mr. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body its applicable law and factual findings?
Substantial and competent evidence, Mr. Mayor.
Sir, we'll enter into deliberations. If there are no more deliberations, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Approve with conditions or deny.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Maison. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Commissioner
sir.
Farnsworth.
So are we required to ask permission from the school board?
I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I had the same objection to that. I don't think, again, as we have said up here, but it always bears repeating, you know, the population of Newberry High School is at 100%, but 40%, only 40% of the students in Newberry High School are Newberry High School, are Newberry kids. The school board is busing 60% to get us to 100. The elementary school's capacity is about 60% Newberry kids, and then there's another 60% that the school board is busing in from outside of our community. So our school's capacity issues are not being created by this board, which means, in my mind, we should not put any undue burden on any applicant to go and request permission. That is y'all's call. This is your city. These are your decisions to make. So when the school board decides that they want to help us out with the zoning and stop busing so many kids to us, then that will be a wonderful partnership to have. But right now, the school's capacity issues are not being created in this room. So I would agree with Commissioner Farnsworth that we make that a stipulation of our amendment to remove that consideration. Is that what you were?
Yes.
All right. Who was the maker of the motion? Commissioner Coleman? Will you remove that condition?
Yes.
And the seconder of the motion, will you change your second to
I'll happily
remove that condition?
I'll still go for it.
Okay, all right. So the maker of the motion is amended, the seconder of the motion is amended. Did you have another? You had a couple other questions, no? They were good? Anybody else got questions? Okay. If there are no more questions up here, I have a motion properly seconded. John Paul?
I just want to announce that we intend to bring this back on January 9th. Should it be approved tonight? Thank you.
Thank you. Does the public have any questions or comments on the motion on the floor? Make a queue, line up very orderly. Okay, if there are no questions from the public, all those in favor signify by saying.
We haven't really gotten comment.
Haven't really got away.
I still had another comment.
Oh, sorry. Well, we'll go back to deliberations.
Yeah.
All right. I'll re-ask the question. Do we have any more deliberations from the dais?
Yeah. Only because I know Miss Deborah is at home with the flu. I know she has publicly brought to my attention at least her unhappiness with this development going up to 66. And after reviewing all this, my only comment to her and to others who may be concerned is I'm pleased that we'll at least get a much better increase on at least that section of 266 going back there. Going from a potential 200 mobile homes down to maybe as many as 180 site-built homes makes for a higher class development going in there. So although I understand potentially the traffic problems, I think this is sort of making lemonade out of lemons to a certain extent. So I'm in favor of the project at this time.
Thank you, sir. Any more deliberations? Okay, I have a motion probably seconded, still no public comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We're out of quasi judicial. And we are on to legislative hearing, ordinance 2022-48, creating area in downtown where patrons can drink beer and wine in an open container when purchased from merchants during special city sanctioned events. Mr. Attorney, would you please read that ordinance into the record for us?
Yes, sir. This is ordinance 2022-48, an ordinance pertaining to alcoholic beverage regulations within the city of Newberry, amending prior Chapter 6 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry to allow an open consumption of alcoholic beverages in a defined zone within the downtown area within certain limitations and regulations. Repealing all ordinances in conflict and providing an effective date. The appropriate motion is to pass ordinance number 2022-48 upon its reading by title only.
Sir, Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the second reading of ordinance 2022-48, which is what is being contemplated to allow for, there we go, alcoholic beverages to be consumed, open consumption of alcoholic beverages, beer and wine specifically, within a defined zone in the downtown area. The ability to consume beer and wine, to be more specific, in this area would be contingent upon the passage of a resolution by the commission, either on an annual basis or as an opportunity arises basis, for special events sanctioned by the commission. It would not be an all the time, anytime type of ordinance. It would only be for special events. Examples of which would be Newberry Main Street fall or spring festivals or something like in a similar fashion. Like I said, it allows for the consumption of beer and wine within a 2-block radius. And actually, that kind of shrunk down to 1-block radius, I should point out, after the deliberations from the last commission meeting that heard this. Has to be purchased by either a local merchant within the zone, or it has to be purchased by a licensed vendor for the event within the zone. And the folks who are participating in the open consumption will have to be wearing some sort of identifier. Wristband is probably the most likely thing that other communities have adopted. Could be you buy a special cup with the logo on the cup, that kind of thing. That'll be determined at a later date once this is implemented, if this is implemented. Further specifies that special events would be set by the resolution by the city commission as mentioned. So if there are a list of events where the commission would like this to be an option, then that can be passed all at one time in a single resolution on an annual basis. Or, like I said, if a special opportunity, somebody comes in and says, here's something I'd like to do, and the commission is in favor of it, it could be passed on an individual basis as well. Add some definitions for to clarify the meaning of open container, and adds a section for penalties for violating the code. As you may remember, the November 14th commission meeting, there was deliberation and considerable discussion by the commission. Commission did approve on first reading with the direction to staff to go back and reduce the size of the zone and to add some, work with the city attorney to add some language that would limit the type of beer to like a higher end or craft beer, that kind of thing. So what you have before you, too far. What you have before you, sorry. You think I never used a clicker before? Okay. Okay, so the amended ordinance presented tonight, it does reduce the size of the zone down to what the commission wanted to see. And then on further consideration, if they thought about it, staff rewrote it. In the original ordinance, it actually defined the area. Rather than have to come back to change that by ordinance every time, staff amended the draft ordinance to say they could be set by resolution of the commission. So it wouldn't have to be an ordinance change, just the zone itself could be set by resolution by the commission, make it faster, quicker, more limber. And then did speak with the city attorney about trying to draft some language that would specify the higher end nature of beer or wine.
Go ahead.
And we did decide that would be rather difficult to try. And we didn't really find any other communities that did that. And so our staff's recommendation would be to try it now without that language and then come back at a later date and amend it based on the actual performance in the field of what's happening.
I did some market research on this last weekend up in Thomasville, Georgia. And what their chamber and their community their city and their chamber partner, they create the cups. And so you get a cup and it advertises the chamber and then it's got the businesses on it. And it doesn't really matter what you buy to put in the cup. You're paying for the cup and the right to take that cup as you go and shop up and down the street. So that kind of addresses, I'm fine with leaving that language vague and let's see how it goes, and then just work with the chamber and Main Street to say, you got to buy that cup in order to do it, and the cup is $5, right? So you can put a natural light in there if you want to, but you're still paying $5, or you can get the high-end beer and you're paying $5 or $6 or whatever it is. Because again, you know, when you go to Thomasville, when I go to cities that have this kind of activity, you know, when you go and purchase, you're paying $5 to $7 for a drink. That means you're there to have a good time. You're going to have one or two. If you're paying 99 cents, well, you got a different goal in mind, right? But at $5 to $7, you're just trying to have a nice, you know, social time, that kind of thing. So I think the cup idea is the way to go when it comes to that. Because I've been thinking about the same thing. There's no way you can mandate to people that they gotta sell, you know, craft beer and those kinds of things, right? But you can say it's gotta be in this cup, and then we can work directly with the business owners to say, you know, make sure that you know, when you sell that cup, it's like Disney World. When you buy the cup, you pay extra money for that cup, and then you have that cup with you.
So,
Question about that, Mr. Mayor. Do you have a different cup for each event, or?
No, the business owner I was talking to, but they're disposable. They're not like, you don't save them. I mean, they're cheap cups.
Oh, I save them.
Yeah. So, and I think you could get different ones with different businesses, because the businesses all pay for it, right? So the businesses work with the chamber, and you'd have one cup that has 1906's logo on it, and another cup that has Sycamore Lane's logo. So it depends on who wanted to become a sponsor. So you might be able to regulate, you know, each business has to sponsor one event, so that way you kind of know that there's a difference, those kinds of things. I think that a lot of these questions and concerns that we have, those can be worked out directly with the business owners and say, look, you guys, because the commission can rescind this real quick. So if it doesn't work out, we'll just cut the ordinance out. So let's figure out together what actually makes sense to create an attractive, environment that's going to continue to bring families downtown and those kind of things. It's just going to add a little spice to life.
and Mr. Mayor, it's even simpler than that. You just don't pass a resolution authorizing any events.
Yeah, there you go.
You can keep it on the books for the future, but just don't pass any resolution allowing
Yeah.
it.
Other Commissioner Clark? No? I like the new map. I think that new map is great.
And I just point out, the only variance from exactly what the commission discussed last time was that little jog in the middle there where the two connect, because that takes in those two parking lots where the beer is usually served at the festivals, so.
Other
Yeah.
Commissioner Martin?
Just a clarification. So, businesses within the zone can operate if they have their certificate of license, or I guess with alcohol, right? Or a vendor outside the zone could come in?
If, Mr. Mayor, if the vendor was part of the event, if they were hired by
Okay, okay.
whoever's having the event, holding the event, then they could come in. They would still have to be licensed through the state as a caterer that has a alcohol license to be able to serve off-site.
And I think that's a good, because I know at the last meeting, we were talking about kind of limiting it to the people downtown. But we do have people downtown that aren't in the restaurant business that would like to host festivals. So if they're the host, then they can bring in a food truck that is properly licensed, that are not a food truck, but a beer and wine truck that is licensed, so that you could have that activity.
So staff's recommendation would be to enact ordinance 2022-48 on second reading.
Commissioner
So
Farnsworth?
will those licenses be checked, or is they just, it will be checked by staff?
Wait, say that, ask the question again. Who's checking the license?
Yeah, who's checking to be sure they have a
Well,
license?
when they come
to
in
sell?
to apply, they would have to prove to staff that they're properly licensed.
The businesses within the zone would already have been checked by staff to have the appropriate licensing from the state. Either the event organizer or staff could do the double checking on the, whether the vendors that are brought in that could serve alcohol would have their state licensure.
Pardon?
We have 18 full staff.
I like the sentiment of the idea to a certain degree. I just think it's a potential nightmare to police. We've got a whole ton of caveats and this and that's. If there was an issue, I mean, how are you going to get the police, the deputies to run down this laundry list of things in order to do anything with it? We've got an old town. As much as we due for maintenance. Some of the sidewalks are uneven. And we're kind of encouraging people to cross the main highway with alcohol. It's problematic from the nuance standpoint for me. And furthermore, beyond that, you start looking at liability issues, that kind of stuff. I can appreciate some of the safety aspects that we're trying to put together here. I just don't know that they would necessarily come out in practice. So I'm not in favor of this.
Mr. Farnsworth?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Martin. I have had several citizens contact me regarding this, and they have the same concerns, and also I too will not be supporting it.
Mr. Maison?
So, I mean, Dave and Buster's, you familiar with it in Gainesville? They host like a bike, like once every, I think maybe it's the third Friday or whatnot. And it's my daughter's past birthday. We went there and they hosted this huge bike event where they had an open, same ordeal, right next to a driveway to go. So I feel that if you guys, this is just my opinion, if you feel uncomfortable because of the traffic, then maybe we can shrink in the zone. Maybe keep it on one side of Newberry Road. Perhaps because Seaboard Drive going north is our busiest, festivals that we have. So maybe we can just bring that red line down on this side of Newberry Road. But I think it's a good idea. I just think that maybe if you have worries of people crossing over Newberry Road, then maybe we should just keep it on one side of the road.
I mean, I would say right now, they have to come to us for a resolution. And at that point, we have an opportunity to have a conversation about these kinds of considerations. And are you gonna have a traffic crossing guard to help people cross? I think you never know until you try, right? And if we didn't do anything based on the potential of something to go wrong, we would never do anything. So, I mean, I think before we shrink it down even more, because I think that's kind of the area that we do some downtown events that would take advantage of this, I would say, to staff's point, we can approve one, see how it goes. If it doesn't go, we just don't approve another one, right? The ordinance can stay on the books. The ordinance compels you to come forth and have a conversation about each of these activities. So, my hope is that we give it a shot. I mean, I get it's an old town, those kinds of considerations, but when I go around to every other town, I'm not seeing any brand new cities, right? Every city has, some age to it. So, again, if that's the standard, we're not gonna do anything because, something bad could happen. Well, we need to rescind the golf cart ordinance. We need to, all the things we've done out there that have kind of been on the edge, right? And Commissioner Clark, you've been trying to get
I
it.
was gonna say, I'm in favor of it. I mean, I like to walk around myself and drink a beer during the festival or something. So me personally, I think you give it a shot, and if it don't work, we cank it. Grown people are held accountable is the way I see it. If you can't drink and cross the street, then maybe you need to quit drinking. So, things like these I'm a grown man, so I know what to do and when to do it. So me personally, if this is a grown-up festival, I mean, we can try it, and if it don't work for the staff in the city, then, or if we got problems with police or out-of-hand stuff, we cank it. That's,
Commissioner Coleman, you were reaching, you wanted. Then I'll come back.
Well, taking out my personal convictions here, I question whether it fits our values for small town Newberry, and staying on top of that they're gonna drink responsibly. So I will not be, not now.
Yeah, I'm just confused because, I sit on this dais and I hear safety about, how we're not responsible for kids' safety, right? But now we're talking about grown men, worried about grown people drinking and crossing the road. I'm confused. If we're sitting here and we're saying, hey, look, it's not our responsibility to make sure our kids can't cross a road correctly, but they need to be more responsible. Now we're talking about grown men and ladies and women.
Next.
Commissioner Coleman.
Once again, I'm trying to keep my convictions out of this. I don't see where you're gonna sell a cup that grown men are gonna walk up and down the streets, on the sidewalks, and women, with their kids. Maybe I'm just old fashioned, but and knowing that a Baptist church is sitting right there, and knowing that a Methodist church is sitting right there, I'm sorry, I can't, don't have I don't want my kids around it. If I want to come uptown and eat, I don't want my kids around a bunch of people drinking. And I think a lot of people in Newberry, new people and old people that have been here for years and years, aren't for this. I've had several people, and family members, but I don't have a problem if you drink. I really don't. But when we put it on the streets, our downtown, our hometown on Main Street here, I'm not for it. I just can't be for it.
Well, I think unless anybody is willing to say, I'm on the fence and I can be persuaded if there's things that the chamber or Main Street could do. I mean, I do know that the chamber has asked for something like this so they can host things downtown. They've been great partners with us. If anybody's willing to waiver and give them a shot to see one time, see how it goes, no shot, one time, resolution, one event. All right, well, I need a motion to deny. We'll come back a couple years from now and see where we are later.
Move to deny.
Okay, I have a motion to deny. Second. I have a from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions, motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments, question, motion on the floor. Anybody got anything to? Anybody else? Okay, roll call. Commissioner Coleman? Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Nay.
Commissioner Martin?
Motion was to deny it, so if you want to
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we were all following you, so. We were all with you, right?
Yeah.
So Commissioner Clark, no.
Yes.
Commissioner Maison? Motion passes 3-2 with Commissioner Clark and Maison in dissent. That will move us to item number 6, adding building permit fees, the city's annual fees. Ordinance 2022-49. Mr. Attorney, would you read that into record?
Sir, Mr. Mayor, this is ordinance pertaining to building permit fees within the city of Newberry, amending the prior chapter 14, section 110 of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Newberry to update the building permit fee schedule, allowing the building permit fee schedule to be authorized annually by a resolution, repealing all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date. Appropriate motion is to pass ordinance 2022-49 upon reading by title only.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Thomas?
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As stated, ordinance 2022-49 is basically would take the building permit fee schedule out of the actual code, codified section, and it would be put into the annual budgetary process. So it would be reviewed annually as part of the budget, and it would be added to the city's fees, rates, and charges schedule that's passed annually as part of the annual budget process. Which basically I just stated everything that's up there. As it is right now, the fees are in the code and so have to be changed only through ordinance. Whereas if they're done by resolution, then on, like I said, on the annual basis, when we're going through the budgeting process, they would be included in the schedule that you already pass on an annual basis as part of that process. And so that's when they'd come up annually for review. They'd be left the same, they could be tweaked, amended, but it would be done at that time as part of the resolution process instead of having to go through the full ordinance process. So once, assuming this is enacted by the commission, then a follow-up resolution will be presented that will then actually place them in that schedule of fees, rates, and charges for the current fiscal year.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Questions?
Well, it's basically what we were doing already. I mean, we don't change the rates until budget time anyhow, right?
Codifies it.
It makes it easier for the Mr. Mayor, it makes it easier for the commission to make changes to the fees if necessary, rather than have to go through the whole ordinance process. It can be done by resolution on single reading and done, it goes through annual review. The current fees have not been changed since 2003.
Martin?
Willing to make a motion to approve at the appropriate time.
Okay, I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Any other comments, questions? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. It takes us to item 7, 2023 State Legislative Agenda. Mike, you gonna lead us through this conversation?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am. I'm going to start with a handout. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The handout that I just provided was an email that I transmitted to the commission last week related to this item. So I just wanted to give you, as I told you when I transmitted it to you, that I would pass this out tonight and we'll include it in our discussion. So it's that time again. Each year, the city commission puts together a legislative agenda, which is a list of their priorities for staff and the commission when we're visiting Tallahassee to identify the priority needs of the community. It helps us make sure that it's a very focused ask, and with a community that has a lot of needs, or really we have a big appetite, which turns into a lot of financial needs with the state legislature, that it's important to have a very focused ask. I believe that it's probably our 6th year developing this, the 6th year that we've been put on together. This is the most critical year for us to have a very focused ask. And I'll remind the board that we received $2.5 million last year as an appropriation through the state legislature. And it was a good year for communities, but there were $3 billion worth of projects vetoed by the governor at the end of it all. And we managed to stay in the queue, and we are teed up for $2.5 million is allocation for our wastewater plant, which sounds like a great victory for us, and it is. But if I remind the commission that that's a $40 million project, we still have $37.5 million to raise to move that project forward. And we're going to need to be more successful in finding other sources of money. I believe that the impact fees that will be created when we do the math to pay a debt service on $35 or $37.5 million is just going to be too great of an impact, and that we're going to have to buy that down. Staff's goal is to buy it down to about $10 million, which means we have $27.5 million to go find between now and when we get ready to break ground, 2 years from now. So staff compiled a list of alternatives. They're in the staff report for you. I will go through them. There's 21 alternatives. And staff's suggestion is that this year, normally the commission identifies 4 to 6 or 8. But we really focus on the wastewater plant project because it is so costly compared to other initiatives that the commission has. This year, my recommendation is that we settle in on 2 key projects. I think the wastewater plant, I think we should turn right around and ask for another $4 million from the state legislature, which is item number 1 on the list. And then down on item 3 on the list is kind of a newer project. We've been talking about the Newberry Ag Tech Park for 4 or 5 years now. It's been a dream of the communities, the commissions, and staffs. But we had a meeting a week or so back with UF-IFAS in attendance, and they suggested the idea of a $10 million ask to build the first building in the infrastructure. I mean, in the park. And I thought that, being very vocal, supporting UF-IFAS asked for $10 million would be a key initiative for the city in terms of what it would do for that office part. The results of that meeting that we had 2 weeks ago were, they were stunning, even for the most optimistic people showing up in terms of the credibility and the belief, especially from UF-IFAS, who seemed to have as much enthusiasm towards the project as we did.
And Mike, let me pause you there, because really what staff is recommending is that this body spearhead 1, right? We ask for $4 million for a regional. 3 is really us supporting IFAS ask for 2. Now, we'll be a partner, we'll be co-sponsor in that, but that's really laser in on, we need a wastewater facility because you guys raised the standards, right? So we need $4 million. Newberry is standing right behind UF-IFAS in asking for the 10, but it's really IFAS's ask. We're just partnering with them on the ask. So the way I couch it to Chuck and Keith is Newberry's got 1 ask. We need help with the wastewater. Now, we are 100% behind IFAS, but IFAS is the one, and you guys, most of you were there. Y'all felt the energy in the room. I mean, 2 weeks afterwards, I'm still getting follow-up phone calls, messages, right, about that excitement. So I think that our opportunity to capture that excitement, it's got a window. We need to jump on that as well. But that means when we're talking with other elected officials, we got to remember that sort of laser focus: wastewater, wastewater, wastewater. And hey, remember, IFAS wants to get this ag tech started in Newberry. We're supporting that.
It's a great point, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the clarification. And just want to remind the commission that there are other funding sources from the state that we'll be applying for that are not legislative appropriations. The legislature funds grant programs. You'll see there in item number 2, the Springs and River Grant. We're actually turning in a Springs grant application this coming Friday. Water Management District has programs, DEP has programs. If there's a program out there that has funding for wastewater, you can bet that we've got an application in with them. So I don't want you to think that it's all on these legislative appropriations. So, Mr. Mayor, those are the first 5. Most of those are retreads. You've seen these before.
Let's pause there because we've seen all of these before. So if we agree with staff, we can cut this conversation short because everything on this we've either gone for, and again, when we go up there, you got 5 minutes. So if you try to go through 15 things, you lose everybody. You really have to keep it short. Commissioner Martin?
I guess my only comment is actually whether or not Commissioner Mazon benefit from going through any of this stuff, because historically, we've gone through some of this, but he's only been here.
Correct.
Always have meetings.
A year and a half.
That's correct. Happy to review it with anybody. And I think if you guys agree to wastewater, you're probably going to hear me say, well, give me a W, give me an A, give me an S. We got to get.
And just for folks watching at home, it doesn't mean that everything else on there, you can scroll through them, just leave them for the folks at home who are watching. Doesn't mean that we're not working on these things. It just means that when we're in front of elected officials, we're keeping their attention on the things that we really need right in this second, right? We're gonna continue working on all of these projects, because that's what we do. We juggle, right? But in our very limited time and attention with folks in Tallahassee, we say, this is what we need help for right this second. Commissioner Martin?
Yeah, I guess the second comment then would be similar to what he was saying. You've got to almost give them the talking points on it and just keep it to the meat of the argument and just go with it from there. I think adding on the support letters or support bullet points are perfectly fine also. But the wastewater deal is, I think, the biggest ROI on the project next to the Ag Tech Park.
Farnsworth?
I think whenever the Ag Tech Park was first presented to us, I thought they had people lined up already that were ready to move in and start building. Is that not the case?
No, we, Hawthorne had Plum Creek. So Hawthorne had a development 13 years ago, somewhere in there, called Plum Creek, and they had an Ag Tech Park there. And they did have Monsanto lined up. The county commission voted Plum Creek down, and that dispersed. We were on a sports tourism track. A new commission came in, said, we'd like to shift gears. We want to keep our agricultural heritage alive. The Ag Tech Research Park came out, well, it just fell apart over there. It makes more sense for Newberry anyway, because our heritage is Ag Tech. We've never had an anchor tenant. So we've had a lot of leads. We've had people come in, come out. We've never sat down with somebody and had them say, yeah. We've never sat down across from anyone saying that they thought it was a bad idea. We've just never found somebody that has the checkbook and the network, so.
Okay, well, I agree with the wastewater plant, but I would like to see project 5 and 6 become a priority.
On 5, I believe that our request for the wastewater is Newberry's part of that project. So in order to have that meat processing facility, we need the advanced wastewater. That's always been Newberry's part, which is what I've been communicating to the county, because the county would like us to submit a request for that. But we have to have the wastewater part, and that's always been our skin in that game. So we're building the wastewater, which will allow the county already voted $2.5 million of their ARPA money to get started on the meat
Right.
processing.
I have no problem with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
So I believe 5 is wrapped up into 1 for us.
Okay, and 6?
That project was submitted to FDOT, if we're talking about the sidewalks on State Road 45. Right now, that project is a go with FDOT. And I think you guys approved a document for FDOT so they could actually build a portion of that sidewalk in the city's right-of-way within the last month. That happened in November. I think, that's on there is simply to, as the mayor mentioned, about supporting other people's ask. It's in a program that has been funded every year for the last 20 years. The only way we would lose that project now is if the state legislature decides to discontinue funding that project. So our ask is to continue funding the TAPS program, its Transportation Alternatives Program, for item number 6.
And I would just remind to have UF and IFAS so excited about this, that they're going to be the ones that are going forth with this ask. I don't see how we wouldn't, jump right behind them and say.
Yeah, I mean, I fully support that, but I don't want the legislature to say, hey, we gave Newberry $10 million, so we don't really need money for our other projects. So I don't know whether that form of thinking is going to occur or how that's going to be received by the legislature.
I think that's exactly their thinking, which is why we're trying to narrow it down to one or two things. Because once they say, well, we've given you, that's why I was clarifying for number 3? That's not, that's us supporting IFAS. So if they get that, I would say, thanks, Chuck, for supporting UF IFAS, giving them $10 million.
That ain't us.
That ain't us, right? That's why I think that's an important point to keep harping on.
Right.
Because I do think, and I've had lots of conversations where they say, well, you got $2.5 million last year, what do you want, right?
Right.
Well, that was for one project, and it got us, 1/20th of the way to where we want to go to. We got all these other projects, but that is the thinking. And to be fair, I think it would be our thinking up here if people came to us too. We would say, well, we gave this group this much, we gave this group, you can't keep asking for everything, we gotta spread out the love, so.
Okay.
Commissioner Clark?
Mayor, didn't we, I went with you, we went together as a team, and it was a great opportunity, and talking to the individuals up there, but when we left, wasn't we gonna get the $4 million from DEP?
That's just not the legislative, that's out of one of the
Is
different pots.
that above and beyond the 2.5, if we get that? That's above?
That's not currently set in stone, but it is still in play.
And I think it's just direction. You want it in a
Either would
motion?
work for me. If you guys don't vote on it, the one thing I would also amend on the item 1 related to the wastewater plant, we are touting it to be a regional wastewater plant. So if a motion is made, I would ask for direction to transmit information to the city of High Springs and the city of Archer that this is our top ask, and ask for their partnership in making that their top ask as well, the regional treatment plant funding for the regional treatment plant. And if we get funded at the level we're asking and they get funded at levels that are appropriate and proportional, then we'll be well on our way to knocking down $40 million worth of debt service.
Mike, are you saying ask Archer and High Springs to make this their number 1? Because I would say their stance would be, we'll issue letters of support, but they have their own projects that they are.
Well, and
we're the
for
IFAS in that
for
equation.
clarity, Mr. Mayor, when we get bids in, and whatever they are, each city in the partnership will be asked to take on debt service
share.
for the construction cost. So, and so when, if the project comes in at 40 million, and we're the lion's share of those costs, but if one of those communities has a $5 million ask, we're asking for their priority to be the $5 million ask, so that the project, every grant dollar that comes into the project benefits all the players, and the state recognizes that. And I think it's beneficial if all 3 communities make funding their portion of the wastewater plant a priority, so that the legislature is very aware that a regional wastewater plant in western Alachua County is those constituents' priority.
I've made that clear in conversations that every time you fund this, you're funding 3 cities. I just don't want to create a situation where they say, well, we've got our own project and now it seems like we have discord. I don't mind the support, and I think the argument you're making is absolutely correct, and I think we could ask. But if the answer is, we want to stand behind you and support you, but we have to make our legislative ask some other issue in their city, I don't want that to be seen as tension in the partnership.
Understood.
Commissioner Martin?
One question, then I'll make a motion. Is Trenton still at the table, though?
Mr. Mayor, Trenton is no longer at the table, at least for the wet treatment, the liquid part of the treatment. Our project also includes a compost facility, and there's 15 cities that feel like they need to participate in that. And the way that works in the industry is that it's perfectly acceptable for them to truck in dried biosolids and take them to the compost facility, and they could be a partner in that. As it turned out, Trenton, it's more cost effective if Trenton seeks a wastewater partnership for them to partner up with Fanning Springs and a utility that's called Nature Coast. It's closer, it's less expensive, and they get the same opportunity.
Well, I'm willing to make the motion with the rest.
You want to make a comment that might change the motion, or?
No, but I do got a comment.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Martin. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Farnsworth. Comment from Commissioner Coleman.
I think it's probably really imperative that the three cities get together and form some type of like 2 commissioners each. So, and start having these meetings so that not just Newberry is, you know, we're talking about a wastewater plant all the time, but I don't know that High Springs and Alachua, so it's out to Archer, I meant, it's getting out to the citizens in those areas. And something that where all three of us can start engaging more on this whole thing.
Well, I would say the city managers are, and having the elected officials would get problematic because now you got sunshine laws,
Well, that's
especially have two. And then no one commissioner can speak for the rest of the commission. So, I mean, at this point, I think it's best leave it at the city manager level. And then, because just like us, if High Springs city manager says, we worked out the details, this is good, we should go for this, I think their commission agrees. If High Springs manager says, we couldn't work out the details, this is not a good deal for High Springs, and their commission declines, right? And I think that's more powerful than even a commissioner coming and saying, right, because the managers are non-biased, they're just looking at the dollars and the cents. So there will come a time when that might be where we need to be, but right now I think we got 3 managers that are emailing and talking and meeting with each other, working out this stuff.
Okay, go
Got a
ahead.
motion and a second?
Okay, any other comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously, and we are on to comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You want to go sit down to make your comments, or?
Sit down to make my comments.
That's not a good
My
sign.
list
He's
is
gonna
over
open
here.
up the book. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. My list is actually over here. So, Mr. Mayor, start with city offices will be closed for the Christmas holidays on Monday, the 26th, day after Christmas. Christmas this year is on a Sunday, and will be closed again on Monday, the January the 2nd, day after New Year's holiday. The staff, all other days, be open, business as usual, regular 10-hour days. Mr. Mayor, just advise the commission that staff is putting together a presentation for late January touting it, the city's 2022 accomplishments. So PowerPoint presentation promise it won't be hours worth of presentation. Staff's going to coach me into 15 minutes or so, but we rarely get an opportunity to see all the things that we worked on and accomplished for a year. And
You talking about the state of the city, or is this a different event you're talking about?
this is just a PowerPoint presentation for the city commission. Definitely not trying to steal anyone's thunder, but it actually may be very good.
I was just gonna take notes, just, yeah.
We'll give you the slide deck and you can have more than notes, Mr. Mayor. A reminder that on December the 17th, there's a Christmas parade. I'm sure that an elected official knows far more about it than I do, so I won't say any more about that. Mr. Mayor, wanted to report to the City Commission that I met with Captain Chad Scott today from the Alachua County Sheriff's Office. We were discussing kind of what seems to be an uptick in noise complaints in the community in the last 6 or 8 weeks from a couple of establishments, so certainly not one establishment. But we specifically focused on our agreement with the Sheriff's Office that it authorizes them to enforce our noise ordinances and ask that they take on the monumental task of trying to communicate that specific language to some several hundred deputies that might be on patrol in Newberry, Florida. But I think that having a focus and calling it to people's attention, we'll follow up with an email and try to really highlight what the city's desires are for ASO whenever they're handling after-hours complaints. Mr. Mayor, we got notice from Alachua County that through some freak event, we miscalculated our CRA revenues for this year. I think when we were developing the budget, we reported to the commission that our year one revenues would be $100,000, and we were pretty excited about that. But apparently we've misplaced a decimal, or we multiplied when we should have divided, and we now have learned from Alachua County that the revenue generated by our CRA in year one is going to be $320,000. So we will be coming to the commission in January.
Fire Dallas. That's it. All right.
Dallas's response to that would be, hey, I'm the one that forwarded the email that says you're getting $220,000. I'm the bearer of good news.
All right. Can you make some more mistakes, Dallas?
Yeah.
All right.
So there'll be more on that, but it's a good news story to say that we underestimated by $220,000, and that we're going to have
it's a lot of facade upgrades.
That's a lot of facade grants. There's a lot of projects in the district, road and sidewalk and infrastructure projects and this goes on for 20 years. This era compounds itself for 20 consecutive years. So pretty exciting news for us. And finally, Mr. Mayor, we are working and will present to the commission in either January or February updated projects list that the commission can adopt and use as a guideline for related to the countywide sales tax initiative. If you'll recall, half of the funding is allocated to roadway, transportation infrastructure, and facility infrastructure, and the other half is allocated to wild spaces, public places. So staff's putting together big, long list of ideas that we've heard the commission or the community say that the commission may want to focus on in terms of our funding plan for these 10-year taxes, and we'll try to have that discussion sooner rather than later. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Attorney?
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody. And Wednesday is our 4-hour ethics presentation. There's a return engagement of Andrea True Parker, so she'll be presenting.
What's for dinner?
And wife ordered it. I think I better hold off on saying, because I'm not sure. The most important item. I'm not sure.
It'll be delicious, whatever it is. It was great last time.
And you have a 4-hour requirement, so come on and have some fun with it.
Is anybody gonna make that one? You're going to that one? I'm gonna try to go to that one myself. This week is kind of crazy, but anybody else? All right, so you got 2 people that are gonna.
RSVP, I'm looking at a conflict, that's what I was just.
I RSVP too, but I think I have a conflict also, so I'm
Anything changes, I will.
do my best. All right. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, you got any comments? Thank you, ma'am. All right. Commissioner Coleman?
Merry Christmas to everybody, and also everybody be safe, and that's all I got.
Mr. Clark?
Merry Christmas and God bless America.
Hoorah. Man, now, okay, Commissioner Farnsworth, you heard the passion, you heard the tone.
You can't do it.
It's buried deep. Let's hear it.
Merry Christmas. And we have a parade on Saturday, I think, so do you know what time that's going to be? We need to gather for that. Okay.
You want me to do it now, or you want me to wait?
You can wait until your turn.
All right.
And God bless the Marine Corps.
Good job. Good job.
You missed it. I have gotten more compliments of downtown this year than probably any other year. So I just wanted to pass my appreciation and those who are telling me this to everybody that was involved with the decorations, from the city staff to Main Street to Francis to everybody. Thank you. You make us look good.
Yeah. Commissioner Maison?
Yeah, man, time to get serious here. Okay. A caveat to Martin here, and it's not over. So yeah, we do have a parade coming up Saturday, and also Sunday, there is a toy giveaway. That's right, Lewis Fork Park. So I welcome everybody, every citizen in the city of Newberry, every kid in the city of Newberry to see us out there at 3:30 for I'm not gonna tell you who's gonna be out there, but you know, it's our first trial and error. And I think it's gonna be great, local businesses coming out to support local families. That's how I roll. And I look forward to seeing everybody on this dais and in this room there, yeah? Including you.
Where is this?
The Triangle Park for you older guys.
What time are they giving away the yo-yos? Because I admit it's not Christmas unless I get a yo-yo.
You want a yo-yo?
Yeah, I want a yo-yo.
I got that on the list.
All right.
You put that on the list, we got you
3:30
covered.
Sunday at Lewis Ford.
3:30 at the Triangle Park.
All right.
And yeah, that's right.
No, wait a minute now.
I know.
Come on, it's right
I
before
know.
Christmas. You're going to leave us hanging like that?
I will never leave you hanging. So how are all you guys gonna clean your hands throughout this Christmas holiday? With sanitizer. Hand sanitizer.
All right. New Year's resolution.
Solar sanitizer.
I just want to thank Commissioner Martin for recognizing downtown. Same thing. So many compliments, so many compliments about downtown. The tree lighting ceremony. Is this our first meeting since the tree lighting ceremony? I think so. I mean, downtown was packed. I heard from 1906 and Sycamore Lane that the tree lighting ceremony has become the #1 revenue generator for them all year long. So there's other festivals and things that also bring people, but the tree lighting ceremony, they say, is their best, right? So I remind you guys that 2 years ago when we did the visioning session, out of that visioning session, we talked about turning Newberry into the Christmas capital of Alachua County as an economic driver. And I would say this platform has had a turnaround that's quicker than any other that we've ever had, right? We've tried to become the sports tourism capital. We're working on ag tech. Those are obviously bigger. They take more. But Christmas has become, we're already, that reputation is growing. Snow machines, right? We're going to, on top of the roof, right? We're going to work out the reindeer thing next year. We're going to call that guy and say that this whole bidding thing is not a way to go, right? We're going to have to kidnap some reindeer and bring them home. So, when this commission decides to do something, I think this is just a great example of how we can get some things done. So the parade is this Saturday. But we don't just have a parade this Saturday. We also have a gingerbread contest that's going to be happening. There's $350 prizes. I think there's different categories for kids and adults to be in. It'll be in the municipal building. You can come in and be a professional and make it. You can bring your kids in. They got little ones that they can sit there and decorate. The parade starts at 5:30. If you're in the parade, the lineup starts between 4:30 and 5. The organizers are asking everybody to enter the parade lineup from around the fire department. So pull in, what's that road there to the fire department? That's 4th? No. 4th? So turn in down 4th and then come up to the produce stand that way. Pull off to the right-hand side. We'll try to get everybody in a line right off to the right-hand side. Leave a vehicle avenue if we need to get emergencies vehicles in. Then we'll come out on Newberry Road, heading west. And then we're going to go down right there to Joel's Coffee, come back over to First and come back. So 5:30 is when it starts. There is no, other than the very beginning of the lineup, there is no order. So just decorate your golf carts and put Christmas trees in the back of your truck.
And then Town Square.
And then after that, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there, right? We just got so many Christmas things going on. After the parade, go straight to the town center. I think Santa might be helicoptering in. I don't know how he's getting here, but he may have the special in with the reindeer. If you haven't experienced Christmas on the Square, you just got to come out because it really is a Hallmark movie. It's just like the tree lighting ceremony. They do it up. It's beautiful. It's a great night for the kids. So that takes us through the 17th, and then we've got the toy giveaway on that Sunday. Did I miss anything that's happening this week? Every single weekend, we've got something for Christmas. Okay, that does it for me. Public comment. Come on down. Tell us how the volleyball team did.
They really did very well. At least we got to the Sweet 16.
There you go.
But the team that beat them also won the other night, so they'll be going to the Final Four that we're rooting for Pitt.
That's who we're rooting for?
We're rooting
if you
for
tell me to
Pitt.
root for Pitt, I'm going to root for Pitt.
Okay.
All right. Peggy Lloyd.
That was really good. The main thing I wanted to talk about was, downtown, we did all this extra effort, special attention to the design and the decorations. But there's some other businesses in town that have also gone that extra step. And notably, a lot of businesses have done something. But Ace Hardware is pretty spectacular. Glanzer Realty looks awfully pretty. And Bounds did a lot. So I think it's catching.
I agree.
So.
I agree. And
Boss Art.
Go ahead.
I recommend that everyone ride by the
Yes.
because it took them till today to get them completed.
I'll do it.
But they
Look good.
think they're on track to win first place in a Christmas decoration.
You're good.
I heard from somebody else that they thought they would be winning the city one too.
It's going to be hard to beat the fire department. Yeah, they got that truck.
So it has been really special this year. It's
And I'm
really,
glad that you reminded me because the the third annual Light Up Newberry contest was launched a couple of days ago, and this year it is all virtual, so you can go on and sign up on a link. People can go, you can upload pictures, and people can vote on the pictures. They can go to your house. That creates a map route on there, so if you want to take your kids out and look for lights, you can go to that page. It will automatically create a route for you so that you can go and see all the different houses that are part of the competition. So very excited about that as well. And those businesses, Bounds, they're all part of the competition. There's a business.
Where can people get info?
It is on my Facebook page. Has the city shared that link yet, Dallas? Will you share that link, let folks know? It's on my page, it's on Sierra's page. I want to thank Sierra. We had a whole plan for our Light Up Newberry contest that didn't quite come to fruition this year. And, I was about ready to say, well, folks, sorry, it just didn't happen this year. Sierra said, no, not on my watch, and she figured out a way that we could pull this thing off. So next year it'll be even better, but I think she did a pretty fantastic job pitch hitting for us right there at the end to make sure this thing keeps going because it has become something that it's catching, right? The businesses want to be involved. I got a lot of requests like when's the the Christmas light contest. So now it's all virtual. Everybody can vote right there for their favorite house, their favorite business. So
kind of loses the fun of going around though, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, you have to go around. So you vote when you're there. So, and eventually it'll be geo site. So you have to drive there and then you look at it and you vote there. That's not the case this time, but it will be in the future. But that map is cool.
And I heard a rumor that the cheerleaders have gone well up the road, huh? Nobody said anything about the high school cheerleaders? How far to go? I don't know. I don't know that they've had the final, what?
You said they went up the road, and I said, how far? Mile or two?
I haven't heard this. What are the cheerleaders doing?
Well, they won some
Oh,
they're
you're
going to
talking about
finals.
they made it to the middle school robotics team has got invited to the U.S. Open of Robotics, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They almost
So,
always do well
They
there.
do, yeah.
So anyway, a lot of good things going on.
Must be a really good 8th grade English teacher over there, something that's just making all these kids. Yeah. Other public comment. You waited all night long, you might as well come up and make a comment. Hearing none. Your last shot, we are adjourned.
Okay.